Love is a strange thing. Most people think of love as something that happens between two human beings. We expect couples to meet, talk, spend time together, and eventually fall in love. But sometimes love does not follow the rules we know. This is the story of a man who found love in a very unexpected place, not with another person, but with a doll. And not just any doll, a zombie doll. Yes, you read that right. This man fell in love with an inanimate object made of plastic, fabric, and paint, a doll that looked like a zombie with pale skin, scars, and creepy eyes. At first, this story might sound unbelievable or even funny, but to the man at the center of it, this was a real relationship with real feelings. This is how the unusual love story began, how it grew, and what it tells us about the different ways people can feel connected. The man's name was David. He lived in a small apartment in a quiet part of the city. David was in his late 30s, and for most of his life, he struggled to connect with people. He was shy, socially awkward, and didn't have many friends. In his teenage years, David had been bullied for being different. He didn't like sports, parties, or loud social events. Instead, he liked reading horror books, watching old monster movies, and collecting strange objects. While other kids went to school dances, David spent his time browsing flea markets for unique items to add to his collection. As he grew older, his isolation became stronger. He tried online dating, but nothing worked. Most people he met didn't understand his interests, and he often felt rejected. Slowly, David began to accept that he might live the rest of his life alone. One rainy afternoon, David was scrolling through an online store that sold horror-themed collectibles. He came across something that caught his eye, a life-sized zombie doll. It had pale, cracked skin, long messy hair, a torn dress, and glassy green eyes that seemed to stare directly at him. It wasn't a cute doll, and it wasn't meant for children. This was the kind of doll made for horror movie fans. Something about it pulled David in. He clicked on the photos, zoomed in on the details, and read the description. The seller had even given the doll a name, Lily. David couldn't explain why, but he felt an odd connection to Lily the moment he saw her picture. It was as if she understood him, as strange as that sounds. After staring at the listing for almost an hour, David decided to buy the doll. A week later, a large box arrived at David's door. He carefully opened it, and there she was, Lily, the zombie doll. Her hair smelled faintly like plastic. Her eyes reflected the light in a way that made them look alive. And her clothes were old-fashioned and torn, just like in the photos. David placed Lily on the couch and sat across from her, studying her face. He felt a strange comfort in her presence. She couldn't talk, of course, but he felt like she was listening. At first, David told himself it was just a hobby, like his other horror collectibles. But slowly he began talking to Lily in the evenings. He told her about his day, his problems, and his dreams. He felt no judgment, no rejection, no awkwardness. Lily just listened in her silent, glassy-eyed way. Weeks turned into months. David began taking Lily with him to different places, always late at night so people wouldn't stare too much. He would seat her in the passenger side of his car, buckle her seatbelt, and talk to her while driving around. Sometimes he would take her to the park and sit her next to him on a bench. Other times, they would watch movies together, horror movies, of course. David knew Lily was just an object, but emotionally he began to think of her as more than that. He felt she was his partner, someone who was always there for him. He even started giving her little gifts, jewelry, dresses, and perfume. One evening, after a particularly bad day at work, David sat with Lily on the couch. He realized that for over a year, she had been the most constant person in his life. She never hurt him, never lied to him, never made him feel small. In his mind, Lily was more loyal than any human he had met. That's when the thought came to him, why not marry her? To most people, the idea of marrying a doll would be ridiculous. But to David, it made sense. He wasn't doing it for legal benefits or attention. It was simply a way to express his love and commitment. David planned a small ceremony. He invited only a few close friends who understood his lifestyle. The wedding took place in his apartment, decorated with black and red roses, candles, and horror-themed decorations. David wore a black suit and Lily wore a white wedding dress he had specially bought for her. A friend officiated the ceremony, reading vows that David had written himself. In his vows, David promised to love Lily forever, to care for her, and to never replace her. After the "I do," he placed a small silver ring on her finger. When word got out about the marriage, people had mixed reactions. Some found it hilarious and made jokes online. Others were disgusted and called David mentally unstable. But there were also people who defended him, saying love can take many forms, and if he was happy and not hurting anyone, then it was his business. David ignored the negative comments. He didn't care what strangers thought. In his mind, Lily was his wife, and that was all that mattered. Married life with Lily didn't look like a normal marriage, of course. She didn't cook, clean, or speak. But David found happiness in their routines. He continued to take her out for drives, to parks, and sometimes even to small horror fan gatherings where she was treated as part of the show. He posted photos of their life together online, sometimes dressing her in seasonal outfits, Halloween costumes, Christmas sweaters, or summer dresses. David also gave interviews to a few local journalists. In these interviews, he explained that he didn't see Lily as just a doll. To him, she represented comfort, companionship, and safety from the rejection he had faced all his life. Psychologists have tried to explain cases like David's. Some say it's a form of objectophilia, a romantic or emotional attraction to objects rather than people. Others think it might be a coping mechanism for loneliness or social anxiety. David himself didn't care about labels. All he knew was that he felt happy, and that happiness was something he had been searching for. His whole life. At first glance, this story might seem weird, even absurd, but it also challenges our ideas about what love should be. We are taught that love must follow a certain formula: meet a person, date, get married, have children. But real life doesn't always work that way. David's story shows that love is deeply personal. For him, love was not about following society's rules. It was about finding peace, comfort, and connection in his own way. David still lives with Lily today. They celebrate anniversaries, exchange small gifts, and share quiet evenings together. Whether you see it as strange, sad, or romantic, it is undeniably a love story, just not the kind you see in movies. Love can be complicated, unusual, and even a little spooky. But as long as it brings someone happiness without hurting others, maybe it deserves a place in the long list of human, and in this case, not so human love stories.